汇集天下大事，聚焦华人热点。西雅图中文电台网络电视。
All these friendly faces, and mostly new faces, but also I noticed some old faces. So, but more importantly, because I see so many new faces, 很多新移民到这里来，我感觉到这个是很好的一个现象。因为我们这里新移民来这里都是比较有教育，这个职业上面就很成功的，而且你了解为什么在这里，对于我们小孩子的将来，对于我们以后的这个年轻的下一代，非常重要，一定要跟这个政治上面一定要有关系，一定要有影响力。所以我就很高兴今天晚上去这里来，跟你们说，大家一定要支持 Phillip， 怎么样让他竞选成功？我一个人在搞政治搞了那么多年，一个人搞很辛苦的，就是 it's a very lonely life. I want to be sure, Phillip is going to keep me company, so it wouldn't be that lonely. And 这个很重要的事情，因为你人越多的话，你支持越多的话，you have support system, you can be a lot more successful. So it's like geometric, improvement. So I hope that you all be out there. Many things you can do to be successful. Most important thing is he has to be elected. That means he needs lots of votes. So make sure you get registered. You can vote. Register to vote. Make sure you vote. Make sure you vote for him. That's important. Voting is now very easy. You can vote by mail. You don't even have to go to the polling place. Just fill out the ballot. The ballot will be sent to you by mail. Fill it out, send it. Mark his name. If my name is on the ballot, mark my name too. It's important. And second, they need money. When you run for politics, you have to get the message out. You have to let people know who you are and what you're going to run for and what your message is. So you takes money. They say money in politics is like mother's milk. Very important. Without money, you cannot get the message out. So it's important that you do support it. So there are many, many ways. And ultimately, you have to also go talk to your friends, talk to your associates, talk to everybody about him and make sure that you have people to vote for. 我们华人有很多时候我们不好意思，这个跟人家介绍啊，还是说是谁什么东西了，而且是觉得不敢太这个夸张。But in politics, 政治上一定要 you have to let people know about Phillip Yin. So they say, so the easy.
I think about that. They really are true leaders in this community. So I want to give a round of applause to both Richard. One of the frustrations in politics is that, of course, we like to point out all the bad politicians, but the good politicians, we don't celebrate them. There are a lot of people in this room that have contributed so much to our country. And when I first considered about becoming lieutenant governor and getting into the race, I thought to myself, well, why do I want to do this? Why? It's really hard. You have to ask people for money. You have to quit your job. Your wife's not happy with you most of the time. And you don't get to see your kids. I mean, there's only bad things, right, running for office. Then you think about, well, what's the whole reason why we want to do this? Why? Why would we want to give up our life to do something what a lot of people would say is honestly a little crazy? And the reason why is because during the last presidential election, I should say back in 2015, when we started talking about who would become president of the United States, there was an important issue being discussed regarding immigration. We talked about illegal immigrants, then we talked about building a giant wall in Canada, then it decided that a Canadian wall would be too long and too big, so Trump can't build that wall. But apparently he can build a wall in Mexico. And then a lot of people talked about immigrants. Good immigrants, bad immigrants, legal immigrants, illegal immigrants. By the way, it's not called illegal immigrants, it's called undocumented workers. Right there, politically correct term. Here's the problem with this entire discussion. The entire problem with the discussion is this, is that whether you are born in the U.S. or not born in the U.S. should not matter. Except for Ted Cruz. But we're saying that, oh, if you're born in the U.S., you're a better citizen than those who are not born in the U.S., and I respectfully disagree. There are so many of us in this room that were not born in the United States, and we know a lot of friends that were not born in the United States, but they came to America, they opened up businesses, they hired workers, they created wealth, they created buildings, they built buildings, they did all sorts of great things for our country. As an immigrant, you are 3 times as likely to start your own business. You're twice as likely to graduate from high school and earn an advanced degree. You're almost 3 times as likely to be an engineer, or a lawyer, or a doctor. And that's not just for Chinese people. It's also for our Indian friends. It's also for our Korean friends. It's for a lot of different minorities who come to this country thinking that this is the place that they're going to create a new life, and a better life. Now, people often think, especially for Chinese folks, well, how do we define success? Are they here just to make money? The truth is, yes, everyone likes to make money. But for a lot of us, success is also defined by the strength of your family, your friends, your loved ones. Most of us in this room, except for a couple people, will never be billionaires. So we all lose. No one's going to become a billionaire. So what defines actual success is the ability of basically one to take care of their family and take care of their mother and take care of their kids. I mean, that's already hard enough. But there's another aspect of it too. When many of the immigrants came to this country, they had only one purpose. The one purpose is that they want to make sure that their children have an equal or better life than they did, right? That is ultimately the purpose. You want your children to be educated. You want your children to be smart. You want your children to have the opportunities that maybe other people did not have. And that's one of the reasons why we're in this race, because there are a lot of people who are not as fortunate as we are. We are, let's be honest, we're all very fortunate. We all get good food, we have good family, most of us have a place to live. We're all very fortunate. There's a lot of people who are less fortunate than we are, and we have to think about how best to help them. So, now comes the political part. There's what we call top-down and sort of bottom-up. And in the world of politics, there are some Democrats, for example, that believe that government is the solution to a lot of the problems. If you're not educated, government can help you. If you're poor, government can help you. If you don't have a place to live, government can help you. As a fiscally conservative person who has grown up watching my own parents work extremely hard, I do strongly believe that much of the success in this room, the government may have helped a little bit, but much of the success in this room is because of you. Because you worked hard, because you took the chance to do something that maybe other people thought wasn't possible. For example, like opening a dental clinic, becoming a doctor, opening a restaurant, opening a coffee shop, starting your own company. These things are not easy. These things are high risk, highly likely to fail, yet why do we still do that? Why do we take these chances in life when we know the odds are against us? Because you believe in yourself. And you are free to succeed and you are free to fail. This is exactly why we lean right and are fiscally conservative. This is exactly why that we believe that government should minimize regulation, government should minimize taxes, minimize tax increase to ensure like entrepreneurs like yourself have the ability to create jobs, take care of your family, take care of your friends, and to ensure that your children have the best possible education that is allowed. So, let me take a step back. We had some really big news today, by the way. Did you guys all see the Seattle PI article on Brad Owen?
Yeah.
So, Brad is not running again. And this is really important because we don't know who he's going to endorse. I can tell you he's not going to endorse me. But what's important is that he clears the field for a lot of potential donors who would likely give to me. This is very important. And tonight is we didn't plan it with Brad, by the way. It happened on the same day. But in any case, I'll talk about it anyways. The Republicans have 3 candidates. The Democrats have 3 candidates. There might be a 4th one. On the election on August 2nd, the top 2 will get the most votes, move on to the finals. The finals are in November with the presidential election. So our job, my job, the staff's job, is to do 2 things. 1, make sure that everybody knows who we are in terms of name recognition. While I get to meet every one of you tonight, 99% of this state never meets me. They'll never see me. They'll never hear from me. They'll be lucky to see my name 1 time. There are almost 6.5 billion people in Washington State, of which 4 million are registered to vote. Of the 4 million, 3.2 million actually vote. So how many votes do I need to win? 1.6 million votes. Now, obviously we cannot shake everybody's hand, but that's the challenge for us. That is how we have to win. Our entire strategy from Bill Kazarba and Justin is to figure out a strategy to reach 1.6 million people, and that takes a lot of money. That takes a lot of money. People often ask, well, why am I a Republican? And I said, well, if I was a Democrat, you wouldn't ask me that. Now, I have a lot of Democratic friends. In fact, many of my biggest donors are Democrats. Many of my biggest supporters are independent or moderate Democrats. And that says a lot about who we are as people and what we stand for. Is that the policies of better transportation, less traffic, lower taxes, better schools, lower corporate regulation, a lot of these things are more about common sense than they are about politics. And too often we allow politics to get in the way of solutions. So, Justin, where are you? So as Justin was saying about the job of Lieutenant Governor, the job of Lieutenant Governor is this. You are President of the Senate, so you have half the room who are Democrats and the other half are Republicans, and they like to argue about something, and you ensure that there's a healthy discussion and a fair discussion. But the second part of that job is promoting businesses here in the state of Washington to make sure that they have the best exposure in Yakima, Spokane, Vancouver, Bellingham. To make sure they have enough exposure to Los Angeles and New York and Atlanta and Miami and the rest of the country. To make sure they have enough exposure to the rest of the world, for that matter, whether it's China or the UK or Canada or Mexico. This is an important job. You are the business ambassador for the state. And the other part of the job that's very important for those of you that have friends over in China and Asia and the rest of the world, my job is to go over to them and say, please, come to Washington State because this is the best state in the country to start your job. This is the best state in the country to build your factory. This is the best state in the country to have your Alibaba, by the way, Jack Ma, you're welcome to come here, to have your employees be based here. We are such a special state. The fact that you are all here, by the way, what percentage of Washington State do you think is Asian American or Asian? 8.2. What percentage of Bellevue is Asian, Conrad?
20.
Over 30%. I mean, this is an amazing, I never thought we would become like Richmond. I mean, this is crazy. Not yet, we're almost there. Next year. Next year we become like Richmond. Next year we become like Richmond. Look, we are a very special state when it comes to workforce. We are bilingual, we are worldly, we are international, we are highly educated. We have a huge percentage of people who have college degrees and advanced degrees and MBAs and PhDs and engineering degrees. There's no reason why the best companies in the world should not come to Washington State to have their business. I can't think of one good reason why they should not. They should. And my job is to go to every single one of them to tell them how great our state is, how great our entrepreneurs are, how great our workers are. But that also means that government has to create an environment that allows them to come here. For too long, government gets in the way of business. I'll give you an example. When Boeing considered leaving Seattle for Chicago for their headquarters, what did we do? We did a little bit. But the point is, We didn't do a lot. We didn't do enough. And Boeing leaves. How many of you guys like basketball? Okay, NBA basketball is good, right? I watched it, so I had season tickets to the Sonics when I was a kid. When the Sonics wanted to leave Seattle and leave and go to Oklahoma, what did the city of Seattle do? You know what they said? They go, we don't think sports is important. If you want to leave, go ahead. Oh my gosh, that's our government. If you don't want your restaurant here, you can leave, go ahead. That's crazy. That's crazy. Sports does not pollute. Sports brings in ESPN. We want them to come to Seattle. It's a good economy. Alaska Airlines and Delta, I'm sure they would love to have more games here. Why do we discourage companies from coming here? It makes no sense. So my job is to encourage companies to come to Washington State, whether it's sports, whether it's big business. And oh, by the way, we cannot forget about the small business. The truth is, Amazon and Microsoft do not need my help. They're doing just fine. But there's a lot of smaller businesses that can use my help and your help. We can all do something together, right, to help these small businesses. They will benefit greatly. For those who are doing import and export. I met up, by the way, with the Wholesale Beer Association in Washington, D.C. And you know what they told me? They told me these companies in China want to import beer in China, but beer from Washington State. Then they said they want to import also wine. I'm like, well, don't they already import a lot of wine? They go, yeah, they import expensive wine, like $100 a bottle of wine. But what a lot of the Chinese people want is they want the $5 bottles or the $10 bottles of wine. There is so much opportunity for our state. Whether you're willing to export or you're willing to import, all of us stand in an example of good business. Justin mentioned my family a little bit, and I want to talk about that. Because my mom and dad are here. God bless them. They're fantastic, fantastic people. 2 more daughters. So I feel like when my dad's not around, it's me and like 9 other women in the car. Look, my father was an architect in Yakima in the mid-70s when the economy wasn't good. And what do all good Chinese parents want? They want to provide for the family, of course. He was an architect, building schools and libraries for all of the different immigrants and all of the entire population of Yakima County. My mother worked at the county courthouse. And one day they figured out maybe they should try to start their own business. Let me be honest. I am 40-some years old. I have yet to start my own business. You know why? Because I'm too scared. It is scary. I mean, how many of you are business owners in here? How many of you have your own business? Is it a little scary sometimes? Scary. A lot of responsibility, right? A lot of employees, a lot of money coming back and forth. For them to take the risk to start their own business, and by the way, they started a business in the restaurant industry, which, as you know, the failure rate is very high. That takes a lot of guts. That takes a lot of risk. Now, I'm grateful it all worked out. I'm very grateful it all worked out. I'm sure they're grateful it all worked out. But the truth is, they would tell you the same thing. Government should help you succeed, not get in the way of success and create problems for you. 99% of business owners or more are good people. 99.9. And what happens is in politics, the less than 1% that are bad business owners create problems for all the good business owners. We have to stop that. In terms of policy in Olympia, these are all the things that we support. We support small business, we support medium business, we support big business, we support trade. So, my life has been dedicated to making sure that everybody in this room and everybody in this state has access to information, which ultimately, when you have access to information, it gives you the opportunity to succeed. It's part of the education process. When we had the Lehman Brothers situation, a lot of people that lost money at Lehman Brothers, they signed paperwork they didn't understand. Most of the customers that bought stuff and lost money, they never understood how it all worked. Do you think that's fair that the bank sells you something that you don't understand and then you buy it and then you lose money? It's not right. It's not fair. We stand for fairness. We're good people. When you talk about my career as a journalist, you know, having worked for CNBC and Bloomberg and CCTV America, I've probably interviewed now 5,000 people around the world. From prime ministers to senators to CEOs of Huawei and people like Li Ka-shing and Richard Branson and even people like Bill Gates, who I've had the fortune to meet so many of these people. I'm grateful to meet them. But there's one person that stands out. How many of you play tennis? How many of you know Roger Federer? You know Roger Federer? Okay, Roger Federer, whom I met, he had just won the Australian Open, which is a big deal. He came by Hong Kong, he stopped by the studios, he said hello to me, and we did an interview together about the future of tennis. And everybody on the whole office said, please, please, can you ask Roger to sign the tennis ball? Please, can you ask him to sign a tennis ball? And I said, oh no, he's so busy, I'm not going to ask him to sign tennis balls for you, you're crazy. Of course, no one listens to me. Everyone brings in tennis balls anyways. And they go, Phil, please, please ask, please ask. So guess what? So I promised I would ask. Roger Federer, will you please sign tennis balls for the staff? He stayed for 1 hour. Just signing tennis balls for her. I go, you don't have to stay. I know you're really busy. You just won the Australian Open. You have better things to do with your time. He spent an hour talking to the staff, signing tennis balls. This is somebody that doesn't have to give us more than 2 seconds if he doesn't want to. He can go talk to Nike and go make an extra $50 million. But he's so humble. He's the #1 tennis player, and he was so humble about his achievements. And I think there's a lot that I can learn from this. I think there's a lot that my friends can learn from it. Is winning is not everything. It's important, but also how you win is very important, right? You want to be honest, you want to be trustworthy, you want to listen to people, you want to be very fair about who you are and how you're going to help people. So, I've learned a lot from the people that I've interviewed, and I want to take all of that experience to make our state #1 in so many different things. So there's jobs, business, education, and of course, transportation is an interesting topic. Justin and I were talking about policy. It's like, I don't know what policy fixes transportation. I just know everyone's mad about it. I mean, how many of you are angry about the traffic all the time? Right, all of us are angry, and I don't have any solutions other than less people on the road. But here's the problem with that. If the economy is not good, traffic problems go away. When the economy is good, there's a lot of traffic problems. So I'm going to be kind of careful. I don't want to solve too many of the problems. But here's the thing. Of course, we support good transportation projects, right? We want to fix roads. We want to build new bridges like 520. We have 2 very big problems. A hole in the ground in Seattle. That's embarrassing to many of our friends from around the world. It's embarrassing. I'm not even embarrassed by the hole in the ground. I'm more embarrassed that there's no plan to fix the hole in the ground, and I don't know what they're going to do next. Does anyone know what Governor James Lee's going to do next? No one? It's just so weird. There's a big hole in the ground that no one has a plan of what to do next. Then you have the 405, which they're of course tolling us and charging us money, which, by the way, you initially paid for. But here's the problem with that. #1, nobody's happy about it. #2, a large portion of the money that's generated from all those fees and tolls doesn't even stay in Washington State, it goes somewhere else. What a terrible business deal. We have to look at that stuff in greater detail to see what solutions we can come with. And ultimately, that led to, of course, the Transportation Secretary being fired. And this is what I'm talking about. And Bill and I have had long conversations about this. Why do we want to do this? Because our state deserves better leadership. Our state deserves more honesty. Our state deserves to have somebody who's not afraid to say, you're wrong, you're right, this is wrong, that's right, let's fix it. Let's get this stuff out of the way so we can focus on bigger things in our state. Because if we want to compete with the other 49 states, I'm sorry. How can we compete when we tell people we have a hole in the ground in Seattle? People laugh at us. It's embarrassing. We have to fix these things, and it starts with being honest. And I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, even though the cameras are here. Many politicians are dishonest. They're going to tell you what they think you want to hear. I find that awful. I have no intention to pleasing all of you. I really don't. I want to tell you the truth about what I think and what I believe is good for us. Because you can choose to elect someone who wants to follow everybody, or you can choose to elect somebody who wants to lead you in the right direction. I only know